A few months ago, I was contacted by a guy named Mark Cope, a developer from the indie studio White Giant RPG Studios, about doing a playthrough of their, at the time, up-and-coming demo, Last Dream. Having a small workload at the time, I took on the job, and began an amazing and epic journey across the plains and rivers and oceans, up the mountainous mountains and the dangerous volcanoes. The story of Last Dream is truly an ode to the classic RPG, featuring everything you'd expect to find in one of its greats. It has a massive world with many ways to explore, from chocobo to ship, an airship, and even a submarine. You have to save a princess, and you've got to collect the 4 crystals of power. Sounds familiar. In the mystical land of Gaia, a lone warrior and his companions must travel around the world and uncover the mystery of 1,000 ages, the mystery of the disappearance of the elves, the mystery of the Well of Souls, and the mystery of why. Why have I been taken from my home? At the start of the game, you're able to choose your main team's role. Choose from a fighter or a thief, to mages, to engineers, but be careful who you choose, as it somewhat affects parts later in the game. For example, in Last Dream, you can't steal from the townspeople. Opening a chest in their house will probably summon the guards to come and quite quickly give you a game over. While having a thief in your party, you can easily steal from the common folk. An engineer can access certain shortcuts in dungeons and on the world map, thereby limiting the number of random battles, and a white mage can easily resurrect fallen party members. The hunter class can tame a creature similar to Final Fantasy's chocobo, called a Moa, eliminating world map encounters and providing a faster and more interesting method of transportation. Leveling up is somewhat different as well, as your status upgrades are not automatically assigned, but rather you gain status points that you can then allocate to your characters themselves. Do this wisely though, or you may end up having a mage who is less than effective in battle, or a fighter who has no accuracy and can never hit his target. In addition to the stat point system, skills are obtained through the use of learnable skill points, which are easily attained through fighting monsters or purchasing the skill orbs in the shops. As for the controls, they're much like you'd expect from a classic RPG. 4-directional movement, the ability to walk and run, a button for the menu, and a few sections of the game that mix it up a little bit. Mostly the controls are very good and easy to get used to. Some sections later in the game are a little different, like the minecart that keeps on moving once it's started. Overall though, the controls are very smooth, and even the areas I talked about are pretty easy to adapt to. If you like to play to win, or you have a massive completionist complex, then you'll absolutely love Last Dream. Featuring a comprehensive achievements list, a bestiary, a menu for all the collectible and countable items in the game, you won't be able to forget that you missed something because it'll pop up every time you look at it. The last mechanic to the game is the ability to synthesize otherwise unattainable items through the collection of recipes and item ingredients. Though I did manage to synthesize quite a bit of weapons and armor, I find I was constantly selling my ingredients to gain money for items of healing, as my party didn't include a white mage. Side quests are a part of every game, but most of the time they save them for the end. But Last Dream puts these games to shame with having so many of the side quests scattered throughout the game. Many of the side quests involve some sort of puzzle created by the ancient Vanir, the gods of the world. And by completing these puzzles, you gain access to some of the best equipment and synthesizing recipes in the game. With over 50 unique and challenging puzzles in the game, it's well worth doing the many side quests that Last Dream has to offer. It should also be noted that unlike most RPGs, the majority of this game's side quests are scattered throughout your gameplay experience. They become unlocked as the main story or the vehicles you've earned become available, so there's always something new to do. One of my favorites though was Long Term. You started early on in the game and finished up near the end, and it's the Hunter's Guild, where you constantly are hunting strong boss-style monsters throughout the game, and as your character gets stronger, you're able to take on stronger monsters, and that was just fun. Although the main story leads you in one direction, there are usually multiple paths and multiple ways of getting there. Do you take the mountain pass, or do you go through the dreaded Dread Forest? By land or by sea? By having these multiple pathways, it opens up massive opportunities for bonus experience points, extra treasure, and additional playthroughs of the game. The added ability to select your game difficulty level makes doing challenge runs of the game even more exciting. Well guys, it's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. This game is definitely fun and very well put together. It has mystery, challenge, replayability, and is vast and epic in its story. It has a wonderful selection of music, a variety of playstyles, and interesting NPCs. But for all the good that it has, there are some things that did manage to get into my the good, bad, and the ugly list. I think my biggest complaint that I have is that our main hero is a silent protagonist. Actually, thinking about it, I'm pretty sure that the entire cast of heroes are silent. Which I guess is a testament to White Giant RPG Studios that I've gone through almost the entire game without actually realizing that all 4 of my characters don't talk. Do they? I don't think so. The story is fantastic, and it has some very epic and emotional moments, but as I'm nearing the end, I find that so far I've had very little in the way of an emotional connection to my heroes. But keep in mind, last stream is an ode to Final Fantasy, and Final Fantasy I, which was a huge inspiration on this game, had all silent protagonists and was still amazing. The second and main thing about the gameplay was the vastness of the world map. There is no on-screen map display. Don't get me wrong, there's a very wonderful and very detailed map inside the main menu and the map option, but having an on-screen mini-map on the world would have probably saved a lot of getting lost in the expansive oceans, or possibly even having a map feature linked to one of the unused buttons for quick access would have been a fantastic feature for a future update. There were a few bugs or mistesting things along the way. In one area, if your mage dies and you had no warp stones, you'd be completely trapped and forced to reset your game to an earlier save file. I hope you didn't save after that boss fight. Otherwise you're screwed and have to restart the whole game over. And a minor annoyance was that for some reason the airship had no music or sound effects. So you go through this crazy desert, you fight this insane boss, and finally you uncover the airship. Time to take to the skies. Time to get that evil Thanatos. But as you're filled with so much motivation and determination, you take to the skies, which is supposed to be the best and most epic part of any RPG game, and the sound dims. The music stops. You sit, staring at the screen, waiting for it. Listening for that amazing endgame airship theme, but nothing happens. And you lurk away onto your next destination in complete silence. The only other thing I have to say that is not necessarily a bad thing about the game, but rather an ununiform, is the vast variety of music in the game. It has a ton of music, which is awesome, but there is no central theme really. Some music doesn't seem to quite fit a scene, or just seems to be there to have new music. Classic RPGs usually had a main theme, and you could hear a variation of it remixed throughout the game. The last stream uses a lot of very well put together music, but it's clear and evident that it's from many different artists rather than a central music creator. Well, keep in mind, the category for this is RPG Maker game. Different indie games have different categories. This one is an RPG Maker game, and therefore that's what we're listing it on. So I'll have to give graphics a 7 out of 10. Oh, it had beautiful graphics throughout the game, and the use of the rounded water on the world maps was a nice touch to make it feel more real. But with RPG Maker VX and VX Ace, everything has a very square look in its design. And although the world maps were beautifully done by VX Ace standards, they were still very VX Ace looking. And by that I mean very squarish. Category 2, Music and Sound. I'll have to give it a 7 out of 10. Last stream had a wide variety of music, most of which fits the scenes perfectly, but not having a main theme, which the music follows, kind of hurts the game, and at times makes the soundtrack just feel choppy when moving between locations. As for the story, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. This is where last stream shines. It's beautifully written, it's an ode to classic RPGs, it has elements that we've beloved by all for years, while adding its own style to the mix. Having silent heroes can either hurt or help a game. And in last stream's case, I didn't really notice. The story kept me entertained, and the side quest provided all the background information on the world I needed and what was happening in it. It was fantastic. The gameplay and mechanics, we'll give it an 8 out of 10. The controls were great, and the leveling system and skill learning system were very customizable. Just being able to choose from multiple classes in the beginning lets you have your own customizable playstyle, and keeps the game unique for future playthroughs. Replayability. Oh, this one's easy. 10 out of 10. Easily. With all of the side quests and multiple parties, unique character abilities, it's impossible to complete the game perfectly in one go. All of these reasons are perfect for making this game replayable. In the strategy guide, a free download on the developer website, one of the first things you're going to read is an ode to Final Fantasy. And without a doubt, that is what's promised by this game. You get to take part in a massive 50 or more hour adventure, with wonderful NPCs, a rich world history, while retaining everything that made the games we all loved great. For a price of just $14.99, this game is a must-have for anyone who loves classic RPGs and brilliant storytelling. EndlessXGaming.com gives Last Stream an 8 out of 10, a brilliantly told, classic RPG game.